Good evening, everyone, and welcome. What's the crack? This week's open wheel track guide, we are in Kyalami. Kyalami is probably a lesser known racetrack. It's in South Africa, and we're in the F3 on Tuesday and the DTM on Thursday. As always, we'll be doing a flying lap first, and I'll be trying to talk you through that. There aren't many corners on this track. It's a relatively quick track. You spend a lot of time at very high speed, so fuel is going to be an issue, but we'll worry about that in the last section. The first section is flying lap of the track. Then the second one, I break it down, I slow down at corners, and I show you exactly where I turn in, where I brake, stuff like that, and what's important, what I think is important. I've just set the fastest lap on the server, so I'm really happy with that. There are 28 times registered so far, so it's definitely a good starting point. Then in the third section, I'm going to concentrate on racecraft. Racecraft is going to be super important here. Sometimes it may be okay for people to pass you out because you might actually get a better run coming out of the corner. I'll go into that in more detail, but sometimes inviting the overtake actually works to your advantage. And the last section, I'm going to concentrate on the actual setup of the car. So a lot of you may have noticed with your own setup that the car hits the ground a lot. That loses you time. We'll go into more detail on all that. So let's get started with our flying lap. I usually start in the last corner, but because it's such a long lap, I spared you that this week. So we're just before the start here, and I'll talk you through that corner at the end of this lap. So you're going absolutely flat out. Now towards the end here it does get a bit bumpy, so you'll probably hear my car hitting the ground alright. The 100 mark, that's your braking point, down one gear into fifth gear. You want to get the car stable and then commit to the accelerator. And then this is effectively a straight. That's why that first corner is super important. You want to get as much drive as you can. There's a 100 marker on the left. You just want to leave off slightly and turn in. I'll concentrate on the exact point where we turn in the next section. Brake before the 100 here, down to fourth gear. Keep the car stable and ease on the throttle coming out of here. It's a very easy place to get upset with the back. Fifth gear here, fifth gear around this chicane. Brake it around the 150 mark here, just down one gear. This apex is very important, and use as much of the width of the track here as possible. And this is what I mean by the long straight. That's why I spared you it at the start, and I'll spare it again at the next little section. So that was a 108.552. So let's go back and analyze that in a little bit more detail. Let's skip forward a little bit. So I'm going to pause and show you exactly where I brake, where I turn in, and why I think that's the best place to do it. So just before you'll probably notice the car gets a little bit unsettled here. Just commit to it. You're not going to go too far off. I stay nice and wide out to the left of the track, but not on the grass. So brake just at the 100. So I'm actually just after the 100. You can see my pedal inputs on the left, my speeds and stuff like that. I brake in a straight line, and in fifth gear you can see my throttle input. I'm actually just waiting for the right time to accelerate. There we go. So as soon as the car kind of regains its grip and I know I'm going to be able to power out, straight on it. You're up into sixth really quickly here on the barbecue bend. Juke sweep. Now there's a 100 marker on the left. You kind of want to go for that, but you don't necessarily need to brake or anything here. I leave off the throttle slightly. You see I'm actually not even completely leaving off the throttle. Now let's concentrate on the actual point where I turn in. I know that I'm not turning until after the 100. It's a little bit difficult here, but if you look at when the turn in actually comes, it's exactly when the Honda sign appears in my vision. I'll move this out of the way slightly. There's a Honda sign in the distance there. So the second you see this Honda sign on the right hand side, this is actually on the right hand at the right hand bank. There's another sign in the distance behind it that might be a little bit difficult to spot, but as soon as I see that, so I'm looking at this black sign here, as soon as that Honda comes into vision, that's when I start turning in. There's another one that you could use, which is the sign back here, but that doesn't actually come into vision until a little bit later. The Honda sign is a great marker for me. See, Honda, turn in. And at that point, you just want to get towards the right hand side of the track. So don't really worry too much about the apex. If you turn in at this point, you're at the widest possible point and you want to go towards that apex. You can see I'm barely leaving off the throttle. I'm getting nice and wide here and setting myself up for the next corner. The next corner, super important. Aim for that 100 mark, the red mark in the distance, and brake almost in a straight line towards that and come back. You don't want to go over this white line. And down to 4th gear. You want the car super stable here. That's why I'm running a little bit of aero. I haven't gone for a 0 aero setup because of this corner mainly. So down into 4th gear, you see me easing on the throttle, getting out of this corner. Slamming it here isn't going to give you much benefit at all, if any, even if you get full grip. And the brakes, there's no point in braking after you've done your initial braking. So you power out of here. This is a pretty technical part. I'm way over on the right hand side. I'm still legal because I have wheels on the inside of the line. And what I do here is I keep an eye on that curb on the left, and as soon as that curb on the left kind of lines up with the bank on the right, that's when I start turning in and I try to get close to it. You see that the nose of the car actually blocks your view here. You kind of have to trust it a little bit, and you want to stay close to that curve on the left. So you can see as I drive here, I actually get relatively close to that curve on the left. You can get even a lot closer than that. That part is relatively easy. This part here, you have to trust this compression. There's a kind of a compression to the right. It cambers to the right. You're going down into a dip and you're coming back out of it. So I actually turn in already for the corner at this point, and you kind of embrace the understeer a little bit. But if you keep an eye on my throttle, I'm going through here, I'm actually completely committed to the throttle. That definitely saves you lots of time. Show it one more time. So you're coming through the first part of the chicane, you're already committed to the throttle, and you turn very, very early. Now, I'm not 100% sure how that's going to last with my tyres, but from my initial testing, where I did plenty of laps, it seems to go okay. The front left does heat a little bit, but you've got such a long straight coming up that it has a chance to kind of die down a little bit. I think as long as you're not locking up, your tyres will be fine here. So here I go right out onto that rumble strip, and then at about the 150 mark, so if you got your 200 mark, 150, that's where I brake hard down into 5th gear. And the turn-in point here is super difficult. I kind of do it off feeling, but it's almost the marker on the left, the 100 mark. I just start turning in just after I pass that. It's probably not the most ideal marker, but then once you start getting these reference points here, like this sign, that kind of reminds you where the apex is or was even. Let me explain that. So just after the 100, I turn in. There's nothing on the right as a reference marker for me that I can use. So I turn in, but as soon as I see that lollipop on the straight ahead, I know that I'm past the apex, or what I consider to be the apex of the corner. Now some people will go very, very wide and cut back in here. I think this is quickest because you carry the most speed before the corner and during the corner, and it allows you to keep the speed up as much as possible coming out of the corner. So I'm doing like 140 kilometers an hour there, and you carry that speed out of the corner. So I hope that kind of helps you guys a little bit. It's a pretty technical track. I would recommend practicing it loads. You might get a lucky lap with 0 aero, and it might be an absolute cracker. I recommend a little bit of aero. Let's have a look at the racecraft. So this start-finish straight, I will go back a tiny little bit here now. This start-finish straight is super, super important. Cars are going to be behind you, beside you, or in front of you. Draft is going to play a major, major factor here. We almost top out in 6th gear with these cars. So cars are going to be topping out, but they're going to be in your slipstream. And once you're kind of at your top speed, you're not really going to lose your speed anymore. So what's going to actually happen on this straight is you might see multiple exchanges of positions. So if there is someone behind you and they've got your draft, I wouldn't worry too much because you'll probably be able to get them back. Another thing, if someone does overtake you, this corner is super important. If you nail this corner, nail the exit, you're probably going to be right behind them again and use that slipstream. Now this is, because of the turns and stuff in it, it's quite difficult to pass somebody out. That said, it's not that difficult to get alongside them and get position. So what you want to do, if you do find yourself in someone's slipstream here, get on their right hand side, because the natural racing defense that they want to do is to defend this corner. But this is a nonsense corner. This isn't even a corner. This is still a straight as far as I'm concerned. You want to get on their right, because the second you do that and you're going through their slipstream, as in you're coming behind them, I'll rewind a little bit here. But as your car is here, you're going through their slipstream, so you come towards the back of their car and you almost get catapulted out of their slipstream because they're sticking over to the left. And you want to then get the inside for this corner. As long as you're alongside them, they have to respect your space. They can't go through it. Now, as you saw in the earlier section, you want to get that apex here. But if there's another car there, they're going to muscle you out. They're going to muscle you wide. Similarly, if you find yourself that you're in the position that you get passed out like that, all you need to do is hang back just a tiny bit and then get in their slipstream again. Get in their slipstream. If this is the lead car, get in their slipstream and get inside them here and really make them work for this corner. If there's a car on your right here, this corner is going to kill you. So you want to make sure that you get through that corner cleanly. If there is a car beside you, I would recommend just letting them go and concentrate on nailing this corner. Because if you try to do this too quickly and you're way on the inside, you're going to overshoot the other side, or you're going to break traction and you lose way more time than if you just concede the position. Coming out of here, some cars will get a great drive. It's going to be very, very risky to get alongside another car here. I'd say concentrate on your exits, or concentrate on the fact that in this last corner, lots of people are going to be taking different lines. Take the fastest line you can take to get into someone's slipstream. Once you're in someone's slipstream, you can pretty much stay there even if you're going a lot slower than they are. So I would almost recommend, if you have a chance of getting in someone's slipstream and they're taking this line that I take, this nice wide line, I would almost say, when you're back here, go in tighter and get into their slipstream and try and keep on the inside, and it might work. I'm not sure, but as I say, the straight is so long they might overtake you again. Hopefully there's some nuggets in there. It's all about the opportunities that you make for yourself at the time. There are great opportunities to attack and defend on this track. So the last thing, and not least, I guess, is the setup of the car. I'm just going to leave this play here, but the setup of the car is really, really important. I've raised my suspension loads. I have my aero quite low. I think I've only 2 clicks of aero on the rear, and I've got, I think, 12 on the front. So it's like, I think I'm 12.4, and then 4 I think is the absolute lowest. The reason for that, as I said at the start of the video, bumps on this track are super important, to basically not to have the bottom of the car bottoming out, especially with race fuel. Test with race fuel. I did 90% of my laps on race fuel. I want some bit of aero, because even though I could probably do a better lap if I got lucky with lower aero, it's very important to have that little bit of stability, especially in corners like this. As I said at the start, that's the main reason that I have a little bit of aero on the rear. If you up your rear aero, I would recommend to up your front aero. If you find that your rear aero is still is too high, or that the front isn't if the front isn't turning in, try just lowering your rear aero. These cars are very, very good aero, and on a track like this, your front aero doesn't slow you down as much as your rear aero. So try to get your rear aero low. I have mine 2 clicks from the left, and it works for me. It's just a lot more stable. I did about 5, 6, 7, 8 laps on low aero, and it just didn't feel as planted as this. Other than that, I haven't changed much. I think I made the suspension slightly stiffer than I usually have it. I have some camber stuff that I've changed, and I kind of have a base setup that I use every week. This is relatively similar to my Fuji setup, but it's definitely adapted to this track. Tire pressures, if you have a tire pressure reader app, you'll probably see that the pressures are too high. It's quite hot at this track, and but you can't actually go any lower than what I have on the left hand side anyway. So that's about it, guys. If you like what you see, if you're racing with Liga Corsa, or if you're using this for anything else, feel free to give any comments. If you've found time, I love to hear if people have found time using my setups or using my track guides. And yeah, comment, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Thanks a million for listening to me. Thanks for watching. I can't believe how successful these videos actually are. People tend to watch for a really, really long time. So yeah, must be doing something somewhat right, or else you just I don't know why you watch me, to be honest. I don't think I'm that entertaining, but you guys are doing it, and I thank you a lot for that. It's great to have some bit of justification for spending this time doing this stuff. So I'll see you guys next week for next week's track guide. Before that, we'll have the Tuesday highlights and the Thursday highlights if my PC behaves. Thank you very much. See you later.